Welcome back again, everyone. This time I have a review for the brand new Transformers Cyberverse toy line, and this review is going to be focused on the new Warrior class toys. And disclaimer right here at the beginning: anyone that has watched me for a while probably used to my reviews being pretty upbeat, pretty optimistic and fair. This is going to be a lot more negative than you're used to. I'll tell you right off the bat, I'm not impressed with this toy line, and I'll get into that, talk about the reasons why, but just know that even though this is called the Warrior class, just like the Robots in Disguise Warrior class, these figures have been very significantly reduced in their complexity, both for their transformation and their actual posability. They decided to market Cyberverse to an even younger audience than Robots in Disguise already was. Eventually, the mainline Transformers cartoon will just be akin to Rescue Bots at this rate. But anyway, the other, key feature of the new Cyberverse line is that all of the toys have some sort of gimmick attached to them. Every size class. There is a Scout class that I'm honestly not even gonna bother collecting. They're little tiny Transformers that don't even have alt modes. They just have like a weird halfway between a robot and alt mode. So yeah, I won't be reviewing those. The Warriors at least looked like they might be worth picking up, so I went and bought the first wave. And I'm going to take a look at them. And these are four of the most iconic Transformers characters. You have Optimus Prime, Starscream, my favorite, Bumblebee, best character ever, he said sarcastically, and then Shockwave. So we're going to take a look at each one of these toys, give my thoughts on each one. Some of these turn out better than others, but just be forewarned, the best you're probably going to hear me say about any one of these is I don't hate it. With all that negativity out of the way, let's get started. First up is Optimus Prime, and as per his usual MO, he turns into a red and blue semi-truck. This is a very oddly shaped semi-truck with a lot of very obvious robot kibble. I mean, he's just got like big old feet sticking off the back there. Doesn't even have like doors or windows, just has shoulder hinges. Has smokestacks, but they're unpainted. They're just red like the rest of the cab. In fact, the only part of this mode I'm even remotely fond of is the very front. So they did actually, put some decent amount of paint on here, and it looks nice if we just hold it like this. Don't look at any other part of it. But yeah, it does have an Autobot tampograph right there. And I don't know, this thing just doesn't scream $15 purchase to me. This might be like a $7 purchase, if you were to ask me, but oh well. Here's the robot mode. You can see it's very simple looking in design. He has a head with an obvious panel in the back. There's no articulation in the head whatsoever, which you're going to see that is pretty much a staple of this toy line. I think so far there's all of like one toy that actually has head articulation. Shoulders do swivel up and down. This elbow bends. He's got a fist that's kind of hidden by his truck kibble. This other side, it's got shoulder articulation. The elbow does not bend at all, and he doesn't even have a hand. He has an axe. It's actually a flip-out axe. Can kind of store back there, and then there's a little gray button you press. Kind of, sort of. Bam. Flings out. So the arm itself has an articulation, but the shoulder is spring-loaded, so he has kind of a chopping effect, and there's, the gimmick that I mentioned. His waist proportions and all that seem really weird. I do like the fact that they painted the front of his shins and even the front of his feet there. That's nice. He does have knee articulation, which is rare for toys in this line. A whole lot of back kibble going on. It's really ugly. And for whatever reason, his hips are really loose. So his legs are very floppy. It's kind of difficult to get him to stand in a way that doesn't seem like he's kind of lopsided, which is really odd because it's not like this is an old mold or anything. I mean, this is brand new. So why the tolerances are that bad, I don't know. One thing interesting to point out is that his shoulder pieces here are made of a like almost translucent plastic. It's hard to pin it, but they kind of have a almost like a see-through quality on this piece here. Not sure why that is, but it does actually look kind of cool. So yeah, that's Optimus. He to me is just a disappointment in almost every way. Not to mention just being really small, which I get, he's the same size class as the other, so he's going to be about the same height, but this guy does not do it for me. Luckily, there's a much better one out there, which I will cover in a different review. Now we have Starscream, and just like nearly every other Starscream before him, he turns into a jet, albeit kind of a little short, stubby looking one. He's got a lot of kibble underneath. You can see his face right there. Does have landing gear that moves slightly. Not very impressive. He's got his cannons pointing forward there. His wings kind of flop up and down, which is due to the gimmick that he has, but there's no way to lock them in place, so it just kind of creates a weaker alt mode overall, because if you play with him, his wings are doing this, and it looks really weird. But, he's a jet. You get it. You look at it. It's obviously a jet. A lot of hollowness back here, which looks off. But, yeah. Here's the robot mode, and it's very obviously Starscream. He's got his little Norway cannons here. He's got his wings, got the little cockpit chest, signature head. I mean, no mistaking who the character is. And his little gimmick is that he has kind of a wind-up waist. Oh, and I'm turning it the wrong way. Hold on. So it's kind of like spring-loaded. Turn it. Oops. Let fly. He does like a little whirlwind attack thing. That's why his wings kind of flop around, and these actually open up and real kind of a cool Decepticon symbols underneath. But he spins so fast, you really can't even see these. So it's kind of a wasted detail if you ask me. My biggest pet peeve with this toy, because the arm articulation is decent, moves around the way it needs to. Even has head articulation, which is cool. But you can see that, for one, his feet are completely unpainted. Like the whole leg piece, just gray plastic, which looks very plain, very boring. But the other thing is that the legs are like one piece. There's no knee bend or anything, and they don't even move up and down independent of each other. They're on like the same axle here. So there's almost no posability. They can move in and out, though it's kind of pointless because without any sort of ankle tilt, he can only really stand in one position. His back kibble is a little off-putting because it kind of sticks out there and there's nowhere for the landing gear to go. You can't tuck it in or anything. So overall, to me, this toy is just a really big disappointment. It feels, I don't know, cheaper, but about as cheap as the Optimus Prime toy does. And just like Optimus Prime, he's just way smaller than he should be. Next, we have best Transformers character ever. Please, Hasbro, just keep making more of them. Bumblebee. I think we should have a Bumblebee in every wave of every toy line ever because he's just so good. He's a car. He's yellow. Kids love him. We should just keep making more Bumblebee. But facetiousness aside, his alt mode's actually pretty good looking. Definitely borrow some aspects from the Robots in Disguise iteration. He's got the two stripes, kind of a sports car type vehicle. Paint applications are actually pretty decent on him. The windshields, the headlights, all that. It's got a cool looking spoiler. And doesn't roll very well. Kind of just glides on the table. But he is decent looking, I'll give him that. Not very bad robot kibble underneath. Bee's robot mode is pretty decently slick looking. Does have articulation in the shoulder. His elbow does bend. He's got a lot of kibble on the back of his arms though, which really shouldn't be there. Legs are on a ball joint, which is kind of surprising. And his knees look like they should bend, but I can tell you that if you try to bend the knees, all you're going to do is just kind of pop the lower leg off. Not actually meant to bend. It's hard to see, but his shoulder detail does actually mimic his animation model. This is supposed to be kind of like car hood halves, but because it's unpainted, it's almost impossible to make out. So it's there. It just doesn't look like it is. You can see here, he's got this little stinger arm thing going on. His arm's pointing straight out. And that's his little gimmick. Now, issue with this is that this arm, oh boy, yep. Just to warn you guys, this toy is very fiddly. Yep. Lots of fun to play with. So much fun. Anyhow. So the arm's supposed to lock in a down position, so you don't have to have it pointing up. And then if you just press his chest down a little bit. Oh, now I'm a liar. Thanks. It swings upward, and it doesn't lock into place very well at all. So pretty much every time you look at this guy, he's going to be holding his weapon out. The weapon itself is pretty cool looking. It's got these spikes on the top, makes it look a little dangerous. You know, it's supposed to be like a stinger because, you know, get it, he's Bumblebee, haha. And, you know, again, just like the other two, I really am just not a fan of this toy. It doesn't feel like a warrior class toy. It just feels like a cheap, you know, one-step looking toy. Honestly, if they had put more effort into the design and the complexity, this would actually look pretty cool. I like his, you know, overall design aesthetic. A good compromise between classic Bumblebee and the more recent interpretations. But he just really suffers for his simplicity. The only thing he's really got going for him is that being small, he'll at least scale well with other figures, I guess. So there's that. And lastly, we have Shockwave. And I will tell you right now that this is my favorite toy out of the wave. It's the only one that almost feels like it could be considered a deluxe or warrior class. So this Shockwave, you know, they had a new take on the character. Instead of him turning into a gun or something like that, he's like this weird spider tank thing. In fact, the wiki called it the Grudge, and I found that hilarious. So it looks like he's just crawling backwards down the stairs. But he makes for a decent looking spider tank, you know, some sort of Cybertronian alt mode. He's kind of got these stamping feet going on. He's got a cannon on the top here. And it makes sense. And there's posability. And the shoulder and hip joints, the elbow and knee joints work. So you can kind of customize how he stands. And it's simple. Doesn't do a whole lot. His action feature does work in this mode. You pull this lever back. And the barrel recedes, but you get this kind of energy blast coming out. So that's pretty neat. He's actually the only character whose action gimmick really works in both modes, at least in this deluxe wave. And here we have by far the best robot mode out of this entire wave. Shockwave really evokes his original G1 self more so than any of these other designs we've looked at. They kind of kept him a little more true to his roots. He has a lot of nice molded and painted detail on him. They went through the trouble of painting on all these little lines and crevices on him. The chest looks really good, a lot of sculpted detail. The face looks good. There's actually supposed to be a second eye up here, which is kind of a new touch they added, but it's hard to tell because it's not painted in. But at least they painted, you know, the main eye and all that. Head doesn't move, which is no big surprise. And he looks good. Like, I can see people using this as their, you know, G1 classics type Shockwave. He has this hole here, which doesn't serve a purpose on this toy, but it is where the little tube or wire connects to his gun arm in the animation model. So I don't know if there was originally a plan to have something attached to him, but it's not there anymore. He's a little finicky. Hips are kind of loose, just like they are on Optimus. And he's got this cannon on his back, and you can bring it up and it automatically flips out the 2 energy blasts. So as opposed to his spider tank mode, this unleashes both blasts. So, you can have him getting some extra firepower in this mode. Looks pretty good doing it. And you just pull it back and they flip back down. So, yeah, this guy does feel like a, albeit pretty simple, deluxe class toy. Makes him by far the best toy out of this wave. And other people seem to realize that too, because he was actually a lot harder to find than any other toy that's come out for this line so far, like regardless of wave. These started showing up in Targets around my local area, and I could find any of the other figures at any one of them, but Shockwave took me several attempts to actually spot one, because other people realize that he's just a good-looking figure. He's the one that people are going to be most interested in, so don't be surprised if scalpers actually get in on this guy, even though this is a smaller kids toy line. And there you have it, the first 4 figures of the Warrior class price point for Cyberverse. Like I warned, this review has been overall pretty negative. I'm just so very unimpressed with these toys, minus Shockwave. A lot of people have been kind of saying to critics of this toy line, oh, well, this isn't for you. This is meant for young kids. And I get that. But what I don't get, I can do the simple transformations. That's fine, because I get it, small children might not want to deal with this super complicated puzzle bot. But I can't understand why simple transformation also had to translate to, lack of articulation. To me, that's nothing more than just a cost-cutting measure, because there's no reason Starscream can't have knees. No kid is going to be like, ooh, my Starscream's knees can bend. This is too complicated for me. Name the child that would say that, right? So, to me, the whole toy line comes off feeling very cheap, very low budget, like something you find at Dollar Tree. And I'm just very unimpressed thus far. I really do hope that future Warrior class waves offer some figures that are a little bit better. I mean, even Robots in Disguise, you saw a noticeable improvement with their Warrior class figures as the line went on. The first ones did seem kind of low effort and cheap, and by the end of it, people hardcore collectors actually really started enjoying those toys. Maybe we'll see something similar to that. They'll get better as time goes on. I did see the new Windblade that's coming down the pike, and she looks pretty decent. She has bending knees and everything. That's how low the bar is. But I'm going to stop ragging on these things now. Let me know what you think of them, if, they're worth picking up, either for you or maybe for your youngsters. Let me know if you thought I was being too hard on these toys. Maybe I'm just looking at them through, a grouchy old man lens or something, but I do feel pretty strongly negative about them overall. I hope you all enjoyed this look at the new toys. I hope it's helped you decide whether or not you're actually going to go out and buy them. I'm also going to be doing reviews for the Ultimate and Ultra classes for this toy line, so stay tuned for those. They're coming right after this one. And spoilers, I'm not quite as negative about those as I am about these. You really feel the quality go up in the next couple size classes. All right, well, with nothing left to say about these low effort toys, I'm going to end the video now, and I will see you all next time.